welcome back to MIPT, and today's lesson will be classifying organisms. So this will be based on the CSEC biology syllabus. Let's get started. Alright, so living things are classified into groups based on how similar and how different they are. So I want you to remember that. We're going to use an example using non-living things actually. So on my left you have a computer, and on my right you see a phone. Now I want you guys to look at this. What is similar about the two and what is different? Come up with as many reasons as possible and then let me know in the comments. Alright, so some of you might have said that both have a screen, right? That's correct. They're both powered by electricity. They both are used for business and entertainment purposes. So you can use both of them. You can go on the internet, you can go on YouTube, whatever you want to go on. And how do they differ? So, as you can see, pretty obvious, the computer is much larger than the phone. The computer is less portable, or you can say the phone is more portable, meaning easily carried around. It's a bit more difficult to carry around a computer, especially the older computers, those were heavy, right? So it's the same thing that we do when we're looking at living things. We try to find a characteristic, and based on that, we determine how we're going to classify it. For example, number of legs. Alright, so humans, how many legs do most humans have? 2 legs, right? Versus a dog. A dog is born with 4 legs. So that's already one way that we're able to classify. So we can say, let's name some animals that have only 2 legs. And we'd say, example, a human. Animals that have 4 legs, we might say a lion, a dog, a cat. We can also look at hairiness. We may look at the presence of antennae, as you'll see in our further lectures. Does the animal or does the living organism have 1 or 2 or 3 antennae? Presence of wings. So these are just a few examples of looking at characteristics to categorize or classify living things. Now, when we're classifying living things, this is the system that we use. We start at the kingdom and we end at the species. So we're going to use kingdom, then phylum, then class, then order, then family, genus, and species. You guys think you can remember that? Well, we have a memory card to help you out. King Phil counted out 5 gold sacks. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So King Phil counted up 5 gold sacks. Alright, so we're going to use humans as an example. You don't have to necessarily know this, but this is just for you to have an idea of how we classify living things. So, for example, the kingdom of humans, Eukarya, phylum is Animalia, class Chordata, and so forth, so on. Genus we call Homo, and species Sapiens. So you might find that people refer to humans just simply by their genus and species name, Homo sapiens. So humans are Homo sapiens. This is a quick note. So in today's world, persons are now using DNA sequences to determine ancestry. So the scientists in the lab, they're looking at the DNA of different organisms, and it makes them able to basically track where they're coming from. Alright, now we're going to get into the 6 main groups of living things. First, we have viruses, bacteria, fungi, Proctotista, or you might see protists, animals, and lastly plants. Now, I want you guys to know that though there are 6 main groups of living things that you might find, there are only 5 kingdoms. And these are the animals, plants, fungi, protists, and bacteria. So you will notice that viruses is not included in the 5 kingdoms. All right. Now, let's start looking at viruses. So, a virus is a small particle with DNA in a protein coat. Now, have any of you ever had the common cold, or what we call the influenza or flu virus? Well, then you might remember how cold you felt. You might felt a bit chilly in the night when you were having a fever. So I want you guys to use that to remember that DNA is within a protein coat, something to keep you nice and warm. That's what viruses are. They're small particles with DNA in a protein coat. And we're just going to look at two examples. The human immunodeficiency virus, right, which is HIV, which may lead to AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And we know, everyone knows, dog know, cat know, coronavirus, right? It took over the world in 2020. Still taking over the world right now. Coronavirus. This is another example of a virus. Alright, so we're going to look at bacteria. Bacteria is a unicellular organism with no true nucleus. And when we're looking at words in biology, it's very important that you break up the words so you kind of have an understanding of what we're talking about. So uni meaning one, cellular meaning cells. One cell, just like a unicycle. That's one wheel on the unicycle, right? That's one wheel. That's what it basically means. Bicycle, bi meaning two, two wheels. Tricycle, three wheels. So unicellular just means it's one cell. It's a one celled organism. That's simply what they're saying. And you can see it right here. You see one cell. And it's just replicating and creating more cells. So bacteria is a unicellular organism with no true nucleus. And an example is salmonella, which is actually found in raw meat. So when you have uncooked meat, you risk getting salmonella food poisoning, which can make you very, very sick. Alright, so let's move on. So fungi. Fungi is our third group. Now fungi actually has hyphae, which is like thin walled membranes. You can see these thin walled membranes branching out. This is what we call hyphae, right? This actually is what we call pin mold. This is a picture of pin mold. So fungi actually reproduce by spores, right? So it's basically asexual reproduction. So it just reproduces by creating spore, or we call spores. And this on the right you can see is mushrooms, which is actually something that people eat. You might find it as a topping on your pizza, mushrooms. But yes, it's actually edible, even though it's really fungi we're eating. It's edible and it tastes pretty good, right? So the next group we're gonna look at is amoeba, or some people may just say protist or protista. So it's unicellular, once again, one cell, which other group we said was unicellular. Bacteria. So just like bacteria, it's unicellular and has a true nucleus and no cell wall. So on your right, you can see a picture of amoeba, and they are actually able to move, right? So we're gonna look at. Alright, so we're gonna go to animals, right? So animals actually feed on other organisms. Just like lions and tigers and bears, humans, we are animals and we also feed on other organisms. I know some of us had some chicken and rice or some fish and festival last night or some pork. So that is us actually feeding on other organisms. It's just that we cook our food, right? But that is a very, very, very specific characteristics of animals is feeding on other organisms. They also have cells which lack cell walls, and we are able to move around. So the last group we're going to look at is plants. Now, just like fungi, plants have a cell wall. Plants, however, also contain chlorophyll, which is the green pigment that gives plants that green, that bright green color. You can't miss it, right? Now, I don't think any of you have ever seen a plant walking. I'd hope not. So there must be a way that plants can obtain their own food that they're since they're so stationary, right? Most plants are stationary. And that way is by photosynthesis. So we're gonna do another word breakdown. Photosynthesis. Photo meaning light and synthesis meaning to make. So plants are able to make food using light, right? So they get the light from the sun, and that starts up the whole food making process. And lastly, as I mentioned already, plants are usually stationary. Hmm, quick Q&A. Which plants are not stationary? So if you guessed the Venus flytrap, you're absolutely correct. This plant is very special in that it's a carnivorous plant. It's able to eat an animal. That's what carnivorous means, coming from the word carnivore, an organism that can eat animals, right? So this is one plant that is not stationary. One bit. All right, so we're gonna end with one last memory card, and this one is gonna be a story time just to help us cement the 5 kingdoms of living things. So, there once was a king who loved to be out in his garden. One day in the garden, the king was planting some plants. The king hurt his back, as in bacteria, lifting the heavy plant pots. His fun guy, as in fungi, just tried to cheer the king up as he sat on his throne. However, this did not work and only annoyed the king, who ordered his servants, the wild animals, to chase the fungi from his castle. Hmm. Fungi wasn't so happy about that, so he started a protest, as in protest, outside the castle, asking the king to let him back in. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little story time, and I hope it helped you remember the 5 kingdoms: plants, bacteria, fungi, animal, and protists. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to leave it in the comment. Subscribe, like this video if you found it very helpful, and share it with a classmate. Alright, I'll see you guys back with another video.